Well, Malaki Gomadu joins us now. He's also a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Lots of issues just playing themselves out on the floor of the National Assembly, both chambers now. Well, let's start off with this one, where the Senate President talking about, look, this conference is necessary after all. What do you think of this eventual admission?
Well, David, President of the Senate, Senator David Mark, is on record to have made very sensitive statement regarding the convocation of a national conference. This is on the heels of his admission too that the country, as presently constituted, needs state policing. These are very clear admissions that the views they told in the past are no longer working. We thank him for that. Some of us who have been in the vanguard of the agitation for the convocation of Sovereign National Conference are beginning to see that those who are opposed to it gradually are beginning to see the wisdom in those ideas. But come to think of it, can there actually be an escape route? If you ask those who want to be cynical, they will tell you that the Sovereign National Conference has actually started in a different form. And how do I mean? If Boko Haram, for instance, is having as one of its demands the Islamization of Nigeria, you will find that that is in direct contradiction of Section 10 of the Constitution, which talks about a secular state. And if you are unable to meet that by peacefully discussing it, we're going to forcefully make you to make Nigeria an Islamic state. The Niger Delta, for instance, had issues with resource control. And for long, no person was listening to them, and they had to take up arms. Today, we have started hearing agitations for amnesty for kidnappers, armed robbers, and so on and so forth. So, Nigeria, as presently constituted, cannot move forward. And it's either we move forward or we'll go back. We can't remain stagnant. And I think that that has informed the informed decision of some ardent opponents of that conference to begin to have a rethink.
Does the fact that his support is coming now take away from those who have said it before because they think, or is it because of this division and some people seemingly want to foist it down others' throats and they think they won't have it, and then, okay, let's talk about this union if this were to be the case?
In all fairness to President David Mark, he's one of the, in their language, ranking members of the Senate. Before then, he has enjoyed sufficient privilege in the polity of this country, not just as military administrator, but also as minister under the military government. So, on the whole, you could have over a decade of public service, all to this gentleman. I think that what is happening is that people are gradually beginning to tell themselves some home truths. In the recess of their conscience, they are beginning to come to the conclusion that we cannot continue to play politics with the lives, with our own lives and those of our children. They are also not even immune any longer from the challenges that are thrown up by continually playing the ostrich as far as some of these issues are concerned. If you have had the privilege and opportunity to also accumulate what in our forum we call primitive accumulation, you are not even safe to enjoy them. Today, kidnapping is the order of the day. And from the account of one of the recent victims, you would find that these are no longer perpetrated by miscreants or street urchins, just like we had in the Niger Delta struggle. And so people are beginning to face the issues as they are. And I think that what a serious country should do is to take advantage of some of the writings on the wall.
I know we may still come back to this conference, but I did ask Alhaji just before he left that now that the House of Reps has engaged in the same thing that they accused the Rivers State House of Assembly, and that's because, in the fracas in the Rivers State Assembly, they fought, and then eventually we understand that the sitting took place. And in this case, some say, look, it's the same thing. Is it the same thing? And if it is, should anyone be thinking about taking over?
one of the greatest dividends of PDP's rule in Nigeria is the consolidation of the culture of impunity. Impunity strives where you do nothing with respect to any transgression, and people are now emboldened to do more. The River State situation drew its strength from the interpretation we had over the Governors Forum election, where the wisdom that 16 members superseded 19 members came to stay. And less than a week after that, you had 5 members of the River State House of Assembly attempted to impeach the speaker and positioned themselves to remove the governor. Now, what has happened over years or over time with PDP at the center is that the contradictions that led to the emergence of that organization as a political party are beginning to resolve themselves one after the other.
Resolve themselves?
Yes, sir.
This way?
Well, for instance, even this last episode, which has become a very common occurrence, no thanks to our elected members of the National Assembly, is that there is even an advancement in that style of rascality.
How?
If you watch the clips clearly, which you have shown severally since yesterday, you will find that the man in blue who pushed away the other raised a seat, as though to remind his colleague that you seem to have forgotten the Rivers style. We will break your head here and nothing will happen. At best, you have flown our blood at the expense of the Nigerian people. But what became very interesting too is that our women have also, dramatized capacity in wrecking
clips, guys.
In wrecking the same measure of violence. Because I watched with some bewilderment the disposition of the female legislator, I suppose, who, sufficiently dramatized capacity in flexing muscles rather than engaging in the force of logic. I tried to juxtapose that with recent debates all over the world, particularly on the intervention of the Western world in Syria, and found the degree and potency and the force of logic as discussions and debates raged in the British Parliament as well as the American Congress. And I could not find any nexus between that and what we are doing here. So for David Mark, who superintends over this bunch of,
Senator or
yes,
House of Reps?
I'm talking of, he is the president of the National Assembly. By ranking, that is how it goes. Yeah. And I can tell you there are moments when you have joint sections. You cannot talk of House of Reps, the speaker in the exclusion. So I believe that gradually the chicken is coming home to roost. We are beginning to realize that we don't just need to go back to the drawing board. We need to redefine our own brand of democracy.